Thank you for joining us for this episode of Inside Town Hall. I'm your host, Madeline Shields. Every few months, we invite in a few city councilors to join us for a roundtable discussion. And today we have city councilors Curt Soehl and Jennifer Sigette. Thank you both for being here. There's lots of stuff always going on in the city, but the big thing that you have been dealing with as part of the city council is the budget. $776 million budget. Is this the largest budget ever for the city of Sioux Falls?
Madeline, no, it's not, because a few years ago we budgeted in all the COVID money that was coming through the city, which is about 61 million additional dollars. So if you back that out of it, it would be the most actual taxes that we've spent, but not including the ARPA money and the CARES Act money that came through. But I will tell you, it was still a lot of work. This was, in the 8 years I've been doing budget, the hardest one we've had to put through. With what's going on in the state legislature, with them, the rollback of some of the property taxes, the sales tax declining in Sioux Falls, building construction going down, still at a level we're not happy with in Sioux Falls. This was tough. We had to make some tougher decisions this year. And I can speak for the council where we pretty much universally said streets and public safety were huge priorities, and the budget reflects that. The only additional employees went either to police or to a couple for fire and a couple for emergency services dispatch, and the rest was for streets. So it was a tougher budget this time.
Did you have a lot of outside input? I know that there are a lot of people that come to budget hearings and they want to know what's going on. How do you answer all of those questions that you have to field?
It's not easy. It's a huge budget, like Councilor Soehl was saying. And so we just have to do our best to try to educate the general public, because it's, even as I'm still a fairly new councilor, this was my second budget, and it's complicated to get through and to understand where the revenue's coming from, all the different departments. But this was, like he said, this was a really tough budget, or tougher than the last year. The administration did a really nice job of trying to recalibrate, was the word that they used, and just knowing that we're going to have less resources. And so where were those cuts made? One of the things I heard from the public the most about this budget was, and it was pretty public, the mayor announced that he was going to, the administration wanted to pull back library hours and close all of the libraries earlier, which would save a significant amount of money. I think it was in the neighborhood of $260,000. And that was something we heard from the public very loudly, that they wanted us to sustain the hours and keep the libraries open. So Councilor Basie and myself introduced an amendment, and we got that put back in. I was very thankful that the rest of the council supported us on that. So, and I've heard from people since then that they were very happy that we amended the budget.
Well, and that's part of the process. And it must work because citizens want to be heard as well. And in this case, there are 7 amendments that people wanted to talk about, or there was a discussion about. Let's talk about, there's a couple of other ones. One was the swimming pools. Would you like to talk about the pools?
Yeah, I can lead on that. One of the proposals from the administration was to cut back on the pools, on how long they're open during the year. So cut back those couple weeks out of a short summer season. So the council, we heard from a lot of people say, why would you do that if there's extra money there? Well, there's not extra money there. But what we said, it's important if we built these pools, and they're multi-million-dollar pools, we should find the money to staff them from there. Councilor Bronco led the charge, and we all got on board with that for the pools. So the pools should stay open next year, the same time that they do on a regular season. One of the challenges that goes on with the pools is, now that we have such terrible unemployment in Sioux Falls, the pool lifeguards and other employees, they're going back to school. They're going back to college, they're going back to high school, so they get their summer employment done. They want a couple of weeks off before they go back to classes. So we always have that string of, at the end of the year in August, well, we're going to close down one pool, shift employees to another, and that's what the council said. We're going to find the extra money to make sure that they stay open.
And you know, really, you're talking about libraries and swimming pools. This is a quality of life issue. How does that make you feel as city councilors, that you're able to accommodate those kind of things that actually affect families right here in the city? I mean, an everyday thing, because a lot of people go to the libraries, you know, weekly and daily, and to the pools.
Well, I'll just start and get in on that a little bit. What you didn't really see through the budgeting process were the internal cuts made by the administration for processing and whether other employment that goes on for the departments. So what you saw, the front facing of this, was the quality of life thing. All the internal cuts and the efficiencies that they found were behind the scenes, were already done by the time it got to the city council, so we could make those adjustments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't have anything to add.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I like hearing that process works, when people step up and say that. You talked about the horrible unemployment. You're talking about how the fact that we don't have enough workers, that unemployment is very low, not high, just to clarify that. There are just not enough people to hire.
Correct.
Yeah. Is that something that the city has a hand in trying to do? Is that an economic development process? How do we get more workers?
That's a great question that every business owner would love to have the magical answer for.
Well, what we've done for the city throughout the years is, I've been there a long time, and we've gone through the COVID and everything, so we've helped attract city employees. We have a bonus program for police officers right now that seems to work. And as the economy changes, we can have a larger pool to draw from. So the city of Sioux Falls has been very good to their employees through last year's. We're part of the state pension. We have good health insurance. They get raises every year that are either at or above the cost of living since we've been there. So the city of Sioux Falls is taking care of their employees. And you will see how that affects the Minnehaha County and Lincoln County. They're trying to draw from that same pool. In today's world, what I see for the younger generation is a long-term pension, health insurance, security for the next 30 years is not as important as it was for somebody of my generation. That's what we wanted, to get into that job, spend 30 years there, get a pension, have health insurance, and go by. New people today will change jobs quicker and will do it for different reasons. So it's an issue the city has, just like every other employer has. How do you accommodate those people? I will say, when it comes to the budget process, one of the things that this mayor's done, which I think has really worked well, is when he gets his department heads in a room together, they make a pitch for what they want for their department with their peers, and then they kind of take a vote. If you can't vote for your own project, but who else do you think has got something that's very important to go on? In the old days, back in the old days, every department head was a silo, and they fought like hell for their thing and didn't care what other else. We've got great department heads today, and I think that shows through the budget process. The discussions we had were productive. Nobody, to my knowledge, nobody's got really hard feelings they didn't get what they wanted. So I think it worked out very well. And that's a testament to our council. We work very well together today.
Okay, we're still going through these 7 amendments, and another one that you wanted to talk about, Councilor Sigette, is the entertainment venues, the Sioux Falls Stadium. Can you talk a little bit about that amendment?
Yep, absolutely. This is an amendment that I actually made. There's 2 parts to the budget. People may not understand this, but we actually literally have 2 separate budget books. One is the capital plan. It's called the capital improvement plan. And then there's the operating budget, kind of the day-to-day annual budget. But the operating plan or the capital plan, excuse me, is a 5-year plan. So it lays out capital projects such as streets, roads, building repair, building new buildings, things that are in the capital side of the ledger. And one of the first things I noticed when I read through the capital plan, because we vote on both of those pieces of the budget, and one of the things I noticed was the Canary Stadium, or the Sioux Falls Stadium, that the city owns. In last year's 5-year plan, there was like, I don't know, $100,000. No, it was like $700,000 in improvements. Things like, new shingles, or new seating, or things to keep the stadium the best it can be. And this year I opened up the book and I see there was $11 million. So I immediately had to question, well, how did we go from under $1 million to $11 million that we need to put into this stadium? So Director Pritchett, the finance director, and I went out to the stadium with our facilities director and walked around, and they showed me all the improvements that need to be made. And it's not that I disagreed with them. I mean, they probably do need to be made, but I just questioned approving that $11 million when we don't really have a whole plan. We're not sure what we're going to do with the convention center. We're not sure what we're going to do with the arena. That whole event complex campus up there, I think there needs to be a 5 or 10-year vision of what we're going to do with all those buildings. If we're going to build a convention center somewhere else in the town, I just think conversations need to happen before we say, yeah, let's throw $11 million into a stadium that may not be in the plan. So, so I was able to, I just amended it that we kind of keep the bare bones in there. Obviously, we're going to keep the stadium in good working order, but not do a ton of improvements. And so, again, I was pleased that the rest of the council agreed with me, and I passed that amendment.
Okay, yeah, all right. What are some of the other, the housing transfer liquor license proceeds. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I sure will. That was
Yeah.
mine. So let me take you back a couple of years when the city decided to go ahead and auction off our liquor licenses. It raises a lot more money. Along with that, Councilor Greg Neitzer spearheaded an amendment that there were specific things that the liquor money could go for, and it had to do with human improvement. So when this came forward, I asked the planning director and housing director, Logan Penfield, I said, Logan, I want to stop that until we see what you're going to do with the money. So the transfer has stopped. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but I've asked them to come together with a more specific plan so we can make sure it meets those parameters that we approved 4 years ago. So that was the only thing that was just a hold on that.
So are there are no transfers that can be done with liquor licenses, or?
Yes, it can,
Okay.
but it has to meet the specific parameters that Greg Neitzer spearheaded. And it has to do with human improvement, I'll say. It's not really going to go towards building a new library. It's something, if we can maybe do a halfway house, if we can maybe do some improvements to things like that, that's what the money's going to go for.
Like human services, maybe, possibly?
Correct.
Yes,
Correct.
okay, all right, very good. Is there anything else that we need to talk about when it comes to the budget?
I'll just bring up snow removal a little bit.
Okay.
So part of the budget was a reduction in snow removal, and there was some talk about, right now the city's goal is to have all the snow removed in 48 hours throughout the city, off the street. Part of that was also in downtown Sioux Falls and like Minnesota and 41st, they pull the snow together and then they haul it out. So there was some consternation among the council, like we did not want to go to 72 hours. And we were pretty clear to that to Director Cotter. So Director Cotter has said he will make adjustments to the moving of snow to the center and out so that the streets can all be cleared in the same 48-hour period. So we did not have to make an amendment to put more money back. He saw that that was coming, and he's going to make the adjustments to do that. But certainly Dr. Cole, Sarah Cole on the council was very strong because she's been in part of town that's been snowed in for a longer period of time. So that was one thing. We didn't even have to make but the discussions led to that.
Okay. Will there be any changes in how the removal is done, or the process, I know they do the core and then they move to the outside. Does that ever change, or does it always stay the same? I mean, what's the process and what's the priority of snow removal?
Interesting you ask, because Sarah Cole and I met with Mark Cotter and Dustin Hanson a year and a half ago, and we asked about that. We said, it seems like it goes from the center out, and we said, can it go from the outside in? There's over 40 different territories they do for snow removal, and they assign 2 units to each territory at the same time. So what happens is they're all dispatched out, they go to their areas, but what happens for the core is when it gets to be that evening hours where people are hopefully not parking on the side streets in downtown, then a few of the territories are pulled into downtown to get it done before they go back out. So when we asked Director Cotter if we could maybe, instead of go from A to Z every year, could we go to Z, from Z to A, they already are trying to do that. So he's going to make internal adjustments about, like I say, moving the snow off the side of the streets to hopefully keep that same 48 hours done.
Okay. Well, if you keep them snowed in their houses, they can't get down to the core to get in the way, right? Is that,
Right.
maybe that's part of the
Right.
philosophy of that. Okay.
Can I highlight one
Sure,
more? Okay.
absolutely.
I just want to talk about the amendment about neighborhood grants, the neighborhood grant program. So
Yes.
again, in the recalibration, one of the things that the administration, and these are pretty small numbers in the grand scheme of our huge budget, but I just think it's important. We have neighborhood associations all around the city, and we have the most we've ever had. There's 21 active neighborhood associations right now, and we actually have an FTE, a full-time employee of the city, who that's her job is. I think she's actually been a guest on your show before. But that's her job, is to work with all those neighborhood associations. And one of the tools that she has is a grant program, and it was $100,000 in last year's budget. And in the recalibration process, they wanted to bring it down to $75,000. So Councilor Basie and myself, mostly Councilor Basie, really is just such a strong advocate for neighborhoods. And so we actually put that $25,000 back and actually increased it by another $30,000. So it ended up being $135,000 is what we ended up having those neighborhood associations. And the purpose of those is, Councilor Soehl in the beginning talked about public safety and how we did not want to cut back on public safety. And we think of public safety as fire and police and 911. But this really, keeping our neighborhoods safe and having community within our neighborhoods is so important, that you know who your neighbors are, you know who lives down the street, you know who's moving in and out of houses. And these neighborhood associations typically have kind of a leader, and they meet on a monthly basis, and it just run a Facebook page maybe, and these grant dollars allow them to do things like neighborhood beautification, planting trees, putting up signage, and just creating pride in their neighborhoods. So I'm really happy that the council supported
help
us.
with like cleanup, or if somebody needs help with
They write
mowing
they write a grant with kind of for whatever that neighborhood needs in particular. So it's just been a really good tool for us to be able to. We'd love every house in the city to be in an actual formal neighborhood association. Would be our goal. There's about 3 of them I'm working on right now to try to get formalized. So it's just something that maybe a lot of people don't, unless you're in a Whittier neighborhood or a McKinnon Park neighborhood, or you don't necessarily know that program exists.
There's a lot of neighborhoods, and they have names, and I've lived here basically my entire life, and I've heard of new neighborhood names, and I'm like, I didn't know that neighborhood had a name for it. And so it's, I think that is people bringing it up again. You think people who are moving into that and say, oh, we're going to identify as this place in this part of town.
Yep.
Why do you think that's important?
I'll just tell my personal thoughts. I came from a small town. I moved here in the last 25 years, and there was about 110,000. We've doubled. So I know for a fact there's 110,000 people just like me who came from a smaller town, most likely, and moved to Sioux Falls. And so we love that small town feeling. My favorite thing about Sioux Falls has been the neighborhoods I've lived in. My neighbors, literally, that I raised my kids with, are still my best friends. We were out for dinner with one of them a couple last night. I just think that's important to have those relationships because of our small town roots. We come from an area where you do know everybody in town, or the majority of people in town. And so I'm not going to know all 220,000 people in Sioux Falls, but I sure can know the people who live in a 8 or 9 block area that I live in. And so that's just my thoughts, is that we like that small town feeling still, even though we live in what is now a small city.
Okay, well, great. Well, we've discussed the budget, and at this point, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about recycling and some Olympic trials that are making their way to Sioux Falls. Stick with us. We'll be back in just a moment.
Hello, my name is Dr. Lambert with Falls Community Health. I'm here to share a secret. Mental health is just like your Wi-Fi. When it goes out, everything gets messy and you can feel completely disconnected. So if you're feeling like your emotions have taken a holiday without you, it's time to call the pros. Seriously, talking about mental health shouldn't make you sweat like you just ran a marathon. Let's normalize asking for help, because even superheroes need sidekicks sometimes. Remember, your mind deserves good TLC. Don't just survive, thrive with your mental health wellness. If you have any questions, contact your doctor or Falls Community Health.
Welcome back to Inside Town Hall, where we are visiting with City Councilors Curt Soehl and Jennifer Sigette. We finished talking about the budget, and let's turn our focus to recycling. If you're not recycling, you should be, right?
Right.
Okay,
Please
let's
do.
talk about it.
It's one of my passion areas for sure, and that I'm kind of working on some projects to hopefully improve our rate of recycling in the city. Right now, we're right around 16% of things that are recyclable are getting recycled. That's really below the national average. It's higher than other cities in Sioux Falls. Rapid City's at about 5%. Lincoln, Nebraska's at 6%, but some cities in Minnesota are in the 26 to 31% recycling rate. And our goal in Sioux Falls is 18.1, I believe, and we're right around 16, so we're not even hitting our own goals. And so I've asked the Public Works Department and our sustainability coordinator, why is that? What is stopping us from recycling? And it is a ton of different reasons. The biggest one, we are so unique. There's no other city that we can find in the country that has a privately owned recycling center in Millennium Recycling, a publicly run landfill, and then an open market on garbage haulers, on MSWs, which is municipal solid waste pickup. We have 16 licensed haulers at this point. So you've got 16 different unique businesses. You've got a recycling. Anyways, it's just a lot of times in a lot of cities, the city itself collects the garbage, and we've always favored an open market for business here. But it doesn't come without some challenges when it comes to recycling. So,
I thought that we have to recycle. Do we not have to recycle?
So the ordinance, and we're going to kind of do some language cleanup on this. The ordinance right now reads that no recyclable materials are allowed in the landfill. Well, that is very unreasonable. I mean, so one pop can or one piece of paper should not be at the landfill. I mean, that's just not going to happen. So one of the questions is, so if a garbage hauler comes in and 25%, I mean, we do a quick inspection and 25% of their load is recyclable. What do? Do we turn them away? Do we fine them? Do we tell them, nope, go sort all those recyclables out or take it away? It's a problem, and we're getting 800 to 900 loads a day are being brought to the landfill through those garbage trucks. So, I don't have all the answers yet. I can tell you I've been in a lot of meetings just to kind of talk about, let's lay out the challenges, and then let's look to other cities, look to just kind of brainstorm about how we can fix this. It's tough. And then it's tough, you talk about, if you're not recycling, please do. A lot of people don't know how. They don't know you cannot put it in a plastic bag and wrap it. You have to have it loose. They don't know what to recycle and what is recyclable, what isn't. And the garbage haulers, those 16 companies, are really supposed to be educating their customers. And that's, that's a little challenging because we have 6, so if there's a new recommendation, I mean, the city's having to reach out to 16 different businesses and then encouraging them to one of the biggest struggle areas is multifamily housing. So big apartment buildings, sure. They don't necessarily always have the bin there. So, even if you want to recycle, you don't have the opportunity to. So there's just a lot of challenges that we're trying to tackle, so to get our rates where they should be.
Well, since we started recycling, I have about a quarter of my garbage bin is full and my recycling is overflowing, especially with Amazon and all of these, having deliveries. All that cardboard goes, it fills up quickly. Yeah. And if you don't know what you should be recycling, it's very easy. You can go online, go to the City of Sioux Falls with the landfill. It tells you right there. It shows you pictures. Because I think, I didn't know this, but I think you can recycle pizza boxes too, which at first they said no, but you can.
You can, unless they're really, really soiled and greasy. Then they're garbage. Yes. But yeah.
I'll just add to that we do have some challenges, and one is the way to get to Millennium Recycling when the garbage haulers take their stuff there. It's actually cheaper for them to pay a fine than it is to take it to get recycled. So we have to work on that. So Councilor Sigette is working on that. Also, the extent of our landfill. We want to make sure that lasts as long as we can possibly do that, because it costs every time we have to buy more land. We have to open up a new pit. And we've made great strides with our landfill over the past years to make sure it's compliant with all the EPA regulations. I don't know if very many people know this, but we sell a lot of our gas that is created there to the
Poet.
To Poet, just down the road in Chancellor. That gets piped down there. So we do recoup some of those costs from the landfill. But if you haven't been in the landfill lately, it's pretty nice.
I was actually just there a couple weeks ago, and a fun fact, I had no idea, one of the things that people don't necessarily recycle, but the landfill does, is mattresses. So when they get mattresses in, they partner with a person here locally that recycles, and last year they recycled 16,000 mattresses were brought to the landfill.
Interesting.
Yes, the facts we learn as city councilors, let me tell you, it's crazy. Another just fun fact along that way that I've learned in this process is, one, the wear and tear on streets. So let's say my car they can measure the wear and tear of my car driving down the street versus like a semi-truck or a bus. And one garbage truck driving down the street is equal to 938 cars, wear and tear. So
They're heavy.
they're heavy.
They're very
heavy,
heavy.
and they're beating up our streets. So
And if you haven't been to the landfill, it's like a small city. There's street signs, there's stop signs, there's stop lights, and the thing that I go out there for is the compost soil that is free. So if you're a gardener, it's fantastic. I have filled my garden beds with that for years, and it's the best bargain out there, and it comes straight from the landfill. So yeah, it's great. Okay, we have to talk about Olympic trials coming to Sioux Falls. I know you were excited to talk about this. Councilor Soehl, tell us who's coming, and do we get to watch?
Yes, I'm very excited for this. So the Sioux Falls Sports Authority has reached out to the Olympic Committee. We're going to have the Olympic trials for curling in Sioux Falls in November. Now, it's going to be men's curling, women's curling, and also Paralympic curling. This will be the first time that they're all three held together. We've worked on this for a long time. Me being a curler and being on the Sports Authority, we felt it was a great fit to bring Sioux Falls national attention because it'll be broadcast nationally. And curling is one of the fastest growing sports in the United States. And as a curler, I would tell you, it's pretty exciting. Now, as the curlers come here, because we will have at least 2 gold medal winners actively competing on the John Schuster team out of Duluth, Minnesota. They will be here. And there have been other Olympic gold medalists here to promote this too. So if you've never actually seen a gold medal winner at the Olympics, this will be a great thing to come. So Sports Authority has rented out the Denny Sanford Premier Center for a week. And that doesn't come very cheap to do it. So that's where it'll be held. If you wondered about tickets, you can go to USA Curling. You can go look at the Olympic website, or you can go to the Sioux Falls Sports Authority website to find tickets. I'll be there most of the time.
And it's in November.
Correct.
Yeah, that's great. You hear all about pickleball, but you don't hear that much about curling, so this is kind of exciting.
You do when you're in Councilor Soehl's life. We hear the whole council. We hear a lot about pie and curling.
And how long will the competition be?
It'll be 7 days of competition. They'll be practicing before that, and of course we have the Olympic curling ice team coming in to make sure the ice is perfect for that too.
That's great. Well, economic development for the city of Sioux Falls is the way.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you both for joining us for Inside Town Hall. If you would like to get all of the latest news and information, you can go to siouxfalls.gov. You can find out everything you need to know right there. Have a great month. See you next time.